Please put your hands together. Welcome Aldert to the stage this afternoon for his talk called Make Sats Bitcoin Again. The floor is yours.
Great. Sorry, can I have the clicker?
The clicker.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon. It's great being here today. And I am aware that the title of this presentation is slightly triggering, perhaps, but I promise the content will be a bit more nuanced. Also, I woke up this morning with a runny nose, so if you hear me sniffing a lot, I promise it's not the cocaine. It's all right. Let's get started. So, if we want to pay for things with Bitcoin, is this the future we want? I think we can all agree that this doesn't work anymore, right? Nobody wants to pay with decimals or countless zeros. We need to fix this. So, brief introduction. My name is Aldert, lead designer at Synonym, and I like to build brands and products that empower individuals and society as a whole. So, what will we do today? Let's first unpack what BIP 177 is all about. Then we will go into some of the benefits that I think this proposal unlocks. And after, we will have a look at some of the concerns, the typical concerns that people tend to have, and also try to address these. After that, I will show you some real-world examples of pioneers that implemented the standard already and how that played out. And I will end with some quick guidelines on how you can implement this standard in your product yourself. So what is BIP 177? Now, most of you in the audience probably know what a BIP is, but let me briefly go over it. It stands for Bitcoin Improvement Proposal, and it is, in essence, just a way to propose changes or improvements to Bitcoin. And these can be technical or more UX-related in nature. And the beauty of these BIPs is that anyone can propose one, and anyone can discuss it in the open. Now, this particular proposal was introduced by John Carvalho, over there in the room with us in April of this year. And I believe it is essential for how Bitcoin can be understood and used in everyday life. So what is it all about? In essence, you could say it is a display guideline. It tells apps and wallets and services, exchanges, how to display amounts to users, how to present it in the interface. Now, for over a decade, wallets have displayed amounts, presented amounts like this. 8 decimal places, where 1 Bitcoin represents 100 million base units. And this decimal was added in the early days to make Bitcoin easier to work with. Because you have to realize, in the beginning, Bitcoin had very few users and very little value, so it was simply not practical to have that many units. And this made it more practical. Having the decimal made it more practical, so you didn't have to send billions of coins to each other, okay? But here's the thing, the decimal does not really exist. Technically, or in the code, or in the design of Bitcoin, it does not exist. It is purely an interface thing. Is a visual thing. And on top of that, Bitcoin rose from a cent to $100,000 and went from a few users to millions. So we no longer need this fake decimal, right? So the proposal states that we should just get rid of it, delete the decimal, and instead use a very human way, a clear way, to show the amounts in whole numbers, and simply use the Bitcoin logo, the Bitcoin brand, the symbol, as the symbol for the unit of account. Straightforward, basic, simple. Now, I hear some of you thinking, doesn't this inflate the supply of coins, the number of coins? Well, let's take an analogy. Let's say that the entire Bitcoin money supply is a giant pizza. A pizza big enough to feed the entire world forever, you could say. And Bitcoiners like to call this absolute scarcity. You see, over time, as society becomes more productive and efficient through technology, we produce more goods and services. But Bitcoin stays fixed. The amount of coins, the supply, it stays fixed. So that means that everything will become more affordable over time. And up till now, we have been counting the slices of this pizza. So there are 21 million slices, famously known for having 21 million coins, right? And this provided a lot of precision, enough precision for early adopters. But now, things have changed. We have a lot more people using Bitcoin, and slices are no longer precise enough if we want the whole world to join. So we need to essentially zoom in and start counting the crumbs, the basic units, what we just discussed. So where does that leave the OG Bitcoin, you could say, the slice, the BTC? Well, one BTC under this new standard would be 100 million crumbs, or base units, you could say. And that means that if you have more than 0.01 BTC, you would essentially become a millionaire under this new standard. Now, that leaves us with naming this crumb thing, how to call these Bitcoin crumbs. And here's where things get even more controversial. Because Bitcoiners over time have started to call these base units sats or satoshis. And now this proposal proposes to instead call them what they are and essentially always have been, Bitcoins. And the reasoning here is that it aligns better with the technical design of Bitcoin, and it makes things simply easier. So to summarize, we should stop using the decimals, we should respect the base unit, we should display those whole numbers and use the Bitcoin symbol, and simply call it Bitcoins. And again, nothing changes in the protocol, nothing changes in the supply. It is only a display tweak. All right, but why? Why should we do this in the first place, right? What benefits do we gain from this? Well, the reasoning that is provided in the BIP is as follows. Using whole numbers aligns with how it actually functions technically. And second, whole numbers are easier to understand, easier to read, to pronounce. And also a high unit count would allow for those millions and billions of people to join the network. And again, nothing changes in supply. It's only a perceptual change. Now, while studying this proposal, I realized that for the end user, there are some very nice second-order benefits. And also the community benefits from implementing this standard. Let's go over some of them. First, it greatly improves our ability to onboard our friends and family. It becomes a lot easier to explain, and we don't have to use a math lesson, right, to explain Bitcoin. So now, today, users will have to learn what a Satoshi is, how many fit in one Bitcoin, where to put the decimal. And with this standard, we can stop all of that nonsense. We can just say, okay, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, that's it. Second, people simply like bigger numbers, right? It makes you feel better seeing a large balance on your screen. And yeah, it's a psychological thing. Also, you know, talking about our mom again, we can now onboard our mom by sending her hundreds of Bitcoins, and it will not cost you anything, practically nothing, a few cents, right? So it's a win-win situation. And Bitcoiners like to deny it, but unit bias is a real thing. And it leads a lot of people to buy scammy crypto coins because they simply can get more of them. They look at Bitcoin and they think they have missed the boat. They look at the price, they think it's too expensive. And from their point of view, they're absolutely right. It makes perfect sense. These other altcoins have gazillions in supply and look very cheap on the surface. So that's what attracts a lot of users and leads them away from Bitcoin. And BIP 177, you could say, fixes this. Also, people are familiar with a similar idea in stocks, right? With stock splits. And with a stock split, nothing really happens. You keep the same percentage of the supply. The only thing that is changing is the number of units that you own, right? And also a lower price per unit attracts others to the network or to stocks. Now, next reason is that it will make Bitcoin way more usable. It will make economic calculation a lot easier. So transactions are easier to understand, quicker to explain, and harder to mess up. No more fiddling with decimals or endless zeros. Again, it becomes a lot easier. Yeah, the sats again. If we are really honest, sats outside of our nerdy community has not really caught on with the normies, right? They simply call it Bitcoin. And they don't want sat tochis. So what the world wants is Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. Bitcoin is the strongest brand we have for money, and everyone knows the symbol. It's recognized all around the world. So why waste that brand recognition? Why start injecting all kinds of different unit names and symbols in the mix? That will only create more confusion for users, right? So by using the Bitcoin brand, it also unites the community. It puts us all on the same page, and with a clear standard that we can all rally behind, that improves things by a large degree. It's a standard that, with this standard, we no longer have to bore our friends with endless technical lectures, you know. And I think it's just the straight way forward. Then personal milestones matter, right? We would all like to be a millionaire. So with this new standard, it will allow everyone at this stage still to become a millionaire for only about $1,000, right? So there is more enough for everyone. There's more enough for generations to come. 2.1 quadrillion will allow for the entire world to be onboarded. All right, so, but change always is a bit risky, right? And there are certain trade-offs. There are some valid concerns here. First one that is often heard is that if we stop using sats, that is disrespecting Bitcoin culture. You know, stacking sats is a real thing. It's fully ingrained in the community. And I think this is true. Also, many say that you cannot force a change in language, which is also true. But personally, I don't care what you call them. If you call them Bitcoin, sats, bits, Bs, whatever, it remains the same base unit. What I think is way more important is to have the brand recognition, the symbol, and display the whole numbers. This will allow for many to join us. And Satoshis, I'm sure, will stick around as slang, you know, something OGs like to say, something you will use, likely, the audience. But I think for most of the everyday users, moms and pops, they will just resort to using Bitcoins or bits. It's the more natural or logical choice, I believe. And if we are honest, sats has also failed to be adopted, again, outside of our community. Many ignore it, and many normies ignore it and call it just Bitcoin. So why not just adapt to that reality? Second critique is that someone might accidentally send 5,000 BTC instead of 5,000 base units. But this is not going to happen. You're not going to pay 500 million for a coffee, right? The interface and the amounts involved and the context will always guide the user to an outcome where this mistake will not happen. It is 8 orders of magnitude difference, which is like confusing a grain of sand with an entire mountain, right? So, third one. When we start counting with 2.1 quadrillion units, yeah, the fear is that a lot of users might perceive the scarcity of Bitcoin to be affected. The holy cap of 21 million, is in question all of a sudden. And I think this is a fair and also very valid concern. You can already imagine the headlines, right? And you could argue that this will harm Bitcoin's reputation. So I would say this is a fair downside, but I do think we can easily battle it with education and simply by showing what reality looks like. Because reality is the supply cap is untouched. Whether you count the slices or the crumbs, it remains the same pizza. And the slices might suit Wall Street better, and perhaps the crumbs are just better for everyday users. Joe Nakamoto is fully aware of that. He often posts videos where people refer to sats as bitcoins, and they use it every day to pay for things. So this remains. You can still count the slices if you want. The cap remains untouched. Fourth reason, we would have to re-educate everyone. And it's too late to imply this change or push this change. Yeah, you could argue that's also fair. However, if habits can change. Habits can change if a standard is simply better. And we have seen that with sats. People adapted to saying sats, and I think people will adapt again. And we also have to remember that 97% of the world is still to be onboarded. So only a small group would need re-education. Fifth reason, or fifth critique and concern, is that it is all a distraction. Like, we are bike shedding as a community, and we should be focused more on payment reliability or privacy or those kind of things. I think those are also very important topics, don't get me wrong, but I do think this is absolutely essential for adoption. Also, you could argue that Bitcoin, by using the Bitcoin brand and better usability, this automatically attracts other users. And you could even argue that using other symbols or other names are the real distractions, like we briefly touched on. So who have been the pioneers? Who have implemented this already in the industry? BitKit, our mobile wallet, implemented this change 2 years ago. And we have not seen any confusion, any complaints. People really like the change, and Bitcoiners feel richer using our wallet. Also, in combination with other wallets, there's no confusion, even though they represent it differently. Now, after BitKit paved the way, other wallets followed, but things really accelerated when the proposal was officially released earlier this year. And 1 month later, Jack Dorsey, founder of Twitter and Square, tweeted BIP177. And with this, he clearly signaled support, and he throwed his weight behind it. And shortly after, we saw this manifest where Square launched Square Payments at the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas. And it uses this new standard already. People use their phones to pay at the updated terminals. And again, there was no confusion. It just feels natural. In the recent months, many other wallets and services have followed. And one of the main players, Spiral, has also shown itself to be a very vocal and very strong opponent, a strong supporter of the BIP. And I think it makes sense, because it adapts Bitcoin to real life. It reduces friction across the board. And yeah, we could argue it attracts new users. We can argue it is the path of least resistance. And therefore, I think we can also argue that given enough time, BIP 177 is inevitable, whether we like it or not. So, what would Satoshi himself say about this? This is a bit risky territory, I know. But in 2010, he actually said that if at some point it became annoying to have this decimal, we could always move it or remove it. So I believe we have reached that point. Now, if it's inevitable, why not implement it already? You might get a competitive advantage because it will attract more users. So, if you want to do it, it's quite easy, really. Just 3 steps here. Display the base units, like we saw. Swap the set symbol for the B, or use bitcoins as text. That's another option. And inform and educate your users about the change. And that results in something like this. The Bitcoin Design Guide has published great guidelines on how to implement this standard. And if you want to find more information, you can find that on bitcoin.design. Now, if you want to make this new modern standard, this modern denomination, the default, I would definitely encourage you to do so, but also provide a way for users to switch back to a legacy format, a classic format, if you will. This will ease the transition and also keep users in charge. All right, let me end with a call to action. As Bitcoiners, we all have a stake in its future, right? So let's build that future, and let's not wait for that future to magically arrive someday. I hope today gave you some new, fresh perspectives on why and how BIP 177 can boost Bitcoin adoption. And please remember that it changes nothing. It changes nothing about Bitcoin. It only is a user experience improvement. You could say it's a simple usability tweak that I think might benefit a lot of people worldwide. Thank you very much. Any questions or
Thank you, Aldert. Yes, we do have a few minutes for questions, I believe.
questions or other concerns?
Awesome, yeah.
It's fine as
Maybe
well.
there's critiques, you know, maybe there's some toxicity in the audience. It's much nicer to see these things presented on stage rather than via the medium of Twitter or Nostr, where it is just easier to do a knee-jerk reaction, isn't it? Okay, do we have any questions from the audience members? Any at all? Any guys are in fact, why don't we do a show of hands? I'll come up here with you. Who is in favor of BIP 177?
Oh,
that's more than, that's 2/3 of the room.
Yeah, could be a majority here.
Who is against? Who is very much against? A couple guys. Rather than doing a question, can I put you on the spot? Can I ask you why you're against it? Is that okay? Yeah, I'll come with you with the microphone. I was just wondering if you're confident to do so, but you look confident. Yeah, he's up for it. Good, cool. I'd love to hear it.
I love sats.
So give that man a round of applause.
So again, I would say you probably classify as an OG, and you will probably keep using sats, and I'm not going to change that, and that's totally fine.
Yes, there's a man with a hand up there. We have a couple of minutes, yeah. Thank you, by the way, that was great.
I saw Dale, so you cannot say stay humble, start sats.
I know. Odell is just there, you know. Yeah. Triggering Odell.
Yeah.
What does it become, Aldert? Stay humble.
Yeah, like I said, you know, stacking
Just
sats
stay
is,
humble.
is fully ingrained in Bitcoin culture, and this proposal is a bit, you know, harmful to Bitcoin culture or disrespectful, you could say. But honestly, I think, you know, those slogans don't have to die. We can always keep using them, and especially in our OG community. All I'm arguing is that, you know, for everyday users, this will just make more sense. They will just call it Bitcoin as they already do, and when we have 97% of the world to on board, I think it's the logical choice.
Yeah. Also, despite the constant advice, a lot of people don't actually take it, do they? You know.
Yeah.
There was one more question. Was it around here? No. At the back. Okay.
So does the BIP describe what would be called the old Bitcoin, like the mega Bitcoin or something?
It does, yeah.
Mega Bitcoin is not
The slice that we spoke about, the 21 million slices, would be referred to as BTC. So you could even have situations on exchanges where in a transitionary period, it would display, you know, 0.01 BTC, then it would also display, you know, the Bitcoin symbol with a million Bitcoins, and it would display the fiat amount as well. So that way you don't have any risk of confusion.
That's what Wallet of Satoshi does. Wallet of Satoshi has the option to do one or those four options.
Do both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give more time to the next panel because they're going to probably, maybe this will even come up as a discussion point, you know. And also to the sample size there, I know we did a show of hands, but clearly if they're coming to watch you give this talk, they're probably interested in BIP 177.
Well,
So
I would have expected more toxicity, to be honest.
Oh, really? Yeah, me too. Yeah, come on, guys. It's brilliant. Thank you so much, Aldert. Do follow his work at Synonym. Check out the BitKit wallet.